guys, welcome back. Earn Your Leisure, episode 25.
Quarter of a century. So today's a very special episode. They all special now.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Very, very special.
Yeah, it is. Very.
But I'll give some background. So first of all, thank you for your support. Earn Your Leisure podcast is one of the top business podcasts, not in America, in the world.
Global now.
In 6 months, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
It's very rare to be in the top 5% of all podcasts in the world when there's over 900,000 podcasts. So first and foremost, we cannot do that without you guys' support. So thank you. We appreciate it. And also, we have a very special guest today. So we're going to talk about the hair industry, and we're also going to talk about the festival industry. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about working with friends, a lot of different stuff. But I'll give you a quick background. So Simone Mair is an entrepreneur, and she also is part of Curly Girl Collective. Mm-hmm. So Curly Girl Collective, they have an event called CurlFest. So CurlFest is a festival that is done every year in New York City. They actually expanded. We'll talk about that. And previously, in previous years, they've had up to 35,000 people come to the fest. So
that's like bigger than basketball arenas.
No, it's huge. It's the biggest, it's the largest natural hair festival in the world.
Yeah.
And I would probably say one of the largest hair festivals, right? I would assume.
Period.
Something along that line.
I would say
period?
so. We could say period.
So it's like the Coachella. It's like the Coachella of natural hair.
Yeah, and natural beauty. We like to say natural beauty because it's broader than just hair. But we can get into that.
Wait, we left out the part that she's from the town of Greenberg.
No, I'm getting to that point. Right. So it's very rare to have a top podcast. It's very rare to have up to 35,000 people come to a festival and have one of the top festivals in America and in the world. But it's extremely rare to actually go to high school and grow up with somebody. So we all come from the same neighborhood. We all went to high school together. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats, yeah.
And as I said, it's extremely rare that we can sit here and have this conversation. Yeah. She's doing big things long before us, she was doing big things. And now we have a platform. So we definitely wanted to bring hometown hero.
Yeah, this is homecoming part 2. We have Val on. She was homecoming 1. Yeah, here comes homecoming part 2.
For sure. So yeah, we come from a special place, man. A lot of people doing good things. So yeah, that's dope. It's really dope. So first and foremost, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump right into it. As I said, the natural. If you're not familiar, the hair care industry is huge. It's $1 billion industry, right? Especially Black women's hair. I read somewhere that the hair care industry, Black women make up 85% of the dollars that are put into the hair care industry, right? Mm-hmm. It's huge. It's like billions of dollars, right? So for years, it's been on the side of changing your hair, like perms and relaxers and things of that nature. But now it's been a shift in the culture and in the world, really, where now people are moving away from that and going more towards natural hair, like what they have as far as, whether it be dreadlocks, whether it be afro, whether it be just curly. And, that's one of the reasons why your festival is so successful is because, it's picked up momentum and it's in season right now. And hopefully, that lasts forever.
Yes.
But, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about the business of hair, because some people, men, a lot of times in other cultures, they may not fully understand how much money is spent on hair, the pressure of hair, the psychology of hair. It's a very important thing, right? Yeah. Hair is extremely important. Troy doesn't have any hair.
Yeah, man.
He has a beard.
We're counting that now. Yeah. For a while, I was like, "Can I attend the CurlFest?"
Of course.
I was like, "I ain't got no hair."
So all right. So hair, psychology of hair. For even for us, we're Black, but we're not women. So as a young girl growing up, like, can you talk about the psychology of hair and how hair really plays a major part in women's lives
and self-esteem as well?
Yeah, self-esteem 100%. So. The psychology of hair, that's a big one. So I'll give you a high level idea. So for Black women, hair is bigger than just hair, right? It represents skewed perceptions of beauty that we have been fed since we were 2 years old. Mm-hmm. It represents, everything that the society deems as innately black or African as unkempt, not beautiful. All of these things, from our dark skin to our kinky hair, our nose, our texture of our hair, all of these things we have been taught that these things are not beautiful. And you guys have seen studies with the doll project back in this, I think it's the 70s, where young girls and boys that were 4 and 3 years old were given a white doll and a black doll, and every single time the black doll was deemed ugly or not pretty. And this is because it's been taught for generations, from your grandparents, combing your hair and pulling it and saying your hair is tough and is a mess, and using these words like unpretty and nappy and ugly. These things are taught until, and for generations, to your parents, to your own children, to yourself. And it isn't until you actually come to the realization on your own do you realize that you kind of absorb these type of ideals, and you may not even know.
Right.
So for hair, for black women especially, it represents a lot of pain sometimes. It represents beauty, what we consider beautiful, what men or society or the media considers beautiful with us.
Right.
So it's more than just hair. And I say that all the time, that Curly Girl Collective, even though it says curly, or CurlFest is presumably about hair, it's a much larger conversation. CurlFest, ironically, is not about hair. Curly Girl Collective is not about hair. It's about a bigger conversation about changing the ideals in society's, Western ideals of beauty.
Yeah, because systemically for years, and we're 80s babies, and we said this kind of off camera, but the image of beauty has always been a European ideal,
yes.
Right? It was straight hair, it was very slim. So like when you were growing up, it was Barbie dolls, and it right. was Sports Illustrated magazines, yep. and none of the women looked like you. And over the past, I'd say 10 years, we've kind of seen that shift. And I think that your crew, your collective is doing an amazing job of doing that, of changing the narrative, where it's like now we see real life actors and actresses and yes. cartoon figures that represent us. And it's changing, right? So like my daughter now grows up in a world where that black doll is now beautiful because it looks like her.
Yeah.
Whereas, for girls your age and girls who grew up in that era, it didn't exist.
Exactly.
So systemically, it was put a certain way, but you're changing that, and I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yes, slowly changing the conversation, and we still have some ways to go.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go into some numbers. So as I said, African American or black women represent 85% of the beauty industry, even though we're 14% of the total population
of the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then also they estimate the black hair industry at $2.5 billion industry. And that's not even including wigs.
Yeah, so it's kind of undervalued because it doesn't include wigs and weaves, and we have mothers and we have sisters, so we know that's a huge part of the industry. It's expensive. Yeah. Extensions, braids, all these things. The amount that it costs to put these things in your hair, right? So from a beautician standpoint, and the amount of money that is sold in those salons, if it's at $2.5 billion, if you add those things up, we're talking like maybe 10 to 15 billion. Absolutely. So it's a little undervalued in a sense.
Absolutely. We have a huge power in what we spend in the beauty market.
Yeah.
And it isn't until now that we're actually using the power to change the conversation of what we want to see on the aisles represented in the media, and changing the definition of what is considered beautiful. It's not until now we're seeing that we use our own power to make that shift.
Yeah, because even I was surprised by some of the numbers. So they said that relaxers are down 26%.
Right.
So people are moving away from that, right? But there's still, so India imports 6 million pounds of hair to America.
Mm-hmm.
China imports 1.5 million pounds of hair.
That's a lot.
To America.
That's a lot of hair.
It's a lot of hair.
So that's a lot of hair, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because, like I said, a lot of times other coaches, they don't fully understand because it's different. Like their hair upkeep is different, right?
Yeah.
So like, what do you think the average, like cost of maintaining hair, because it's expensive either way. Even if you go natural, you still got to maintain naturally, right?
Absolutely.
And then if you're not natural, then you obviously have to maintain that as well. So I've heard women say $500 a month, $600 a month, $700 a month. Like, what would you, from your friends, your personal experience, what have you seen as far as like average?
Just buying natural hair products alone, or hair products alone, you could spend several $100s a month. I think that's easy. The average product is maybe between $10 and $25.
So
right, for one product.
What products are we talking about? Like, what are we buying? Is it like shampoos or conditioners? Like, what are we doing?
Shampoos, conditioners made specifically for your hair type. Curling creams, twist out creams. I can list what we call it product junkies in the natural hair world, that I could have a full closet full of natural hair products, and I get access to a lot of them, and I'm still in the beauty supply store buying products, trying to find new things that work with our hair. And part of that is because, especially for natural hair women, we're relearning how to work with our hair after years of not being able to use it or understand how to make our hair look beautiful when we walk out the door, or style it. We have to change and relearn these things. So anytime a new product comes out and shows you your hair looking a different way, everybody's great runs to go get it, and it's part of that relearning process as well, which leads to us spending.
You said something very important. You said that we're the biggest consumers of hair, right? The United States and Black culture for sure, but we don't supply it though, which is kind of weird, right? Like, you would think that because we use it so much that we would actually have independent agencies and companies coming out with products to supply. Why do you think that's not happening in our community?
To supply hair or the hair products?
Both.
We do have some Black-owned hair products, and we try to promote them as much as we can. We don't have as many in the mainstream as we would like because of a number of reasons. Access to capital, to be able to produce products at the level and at the scale that you would need to get it into the big stores. However, Target and big brands are seeing the need for that, and you see the change. You'll see right at the end cap, you'll see hair products made by one person, a Black woman, like let's say Eden Body Works, for instance, made by a young Black woman when she was 16 years old in Target, or all sorts of other things. There's the Shea Moistures of the world, also made by a Black man. Richelieu Dennis, he's huge. But it started in a very humble place, right? Independently. And you do see these things changing, and a lot more brands in the big stores, the big box stores now than you did even 5 years ago.
I mean, we actually researched that as well. And one of the things is that, like you said, Target, Walmart, they're all starting to incorporate natural hair products in it, and even other companies like L'Oreal and Revel. But like L'Oreal, they own Dark and Lovely, they own Carol's Daughter. They bought Carol's Daughter, and Revel, I think Cream of Nature, they own. So that's a little discouraging on a certain level, right? Because it's like
it kind of crushes independence.
They're catering towards Black women's hair from Black companies, but they own those companies. So they still are in control of the marketplace. Even though, I mean, it's good that they're starting to cater towards it. They offer products, but they're still in control of the money, which is, that's where it all comes down to. About the festival, I wanted to just ask a question as far as entrepreneurship, because, all right, obviously you're passionate about hair, right? Something that, you've done all your life as far as you have hair and you had hair and but what made you take this idea, come together with your friends, and actually start, even if it didn't start as a business, because you kind of gave us some background information, but what made you actually want to come together and actually start something in related to the hair care industry?
I think how my friends became my business partners and started this was a little serendipitous in a way. I've always been kind of passionate about diversity and Black people and all of these things, and creating avenues for us, and so it's always been kind of something that what of a passion of mine. And how we came together, it was just like-minded individuals. And when I say that, I mean reaching out to our network. I didn't know there are 5 of us in Curly Girl Collective. 2 of us went to college together. We went to Temple. 3 of us went to college together, Gia and Cherise. Melody and Tracy, I did not know them, but I knew another mutual friend. And we kind of just started talking about about random musings and our hair, and transitioning into natural hair was a common topic. And just talking and reaching out to our network became more of a hobby. We started a Google group that grew to about 70 people from anywhere from New York to London to Africa, to Ghana. And we just started to talk about our hair every day, all day. And until we realized, okay, this is something bigger. Obviously, there's a demand for it. Let's come together and have one little meetup at Tracy's house. We had a meetup. It was great. It was wonderful. We learned that we missed this face-to-face experience that we couldn't get from Googling reviews on a hair product, right? Mm-hmm. So we did that, and then 2011 was our very first event. We decided to bring it to the masses. We didn't have really any experience. 3 of the members were in advertising. I come from an IT background. Another member came from risk management background. But we all had a vision, and we felt like the energy in this room, in this small apartment in Brooklyn that we randomly came together, there are other people out there that really need to feel this, right? Mm-hmm. So we had our very first event. It was great. Maybe 300 people came, and nothing but family and friends and friends of friends.
What was the first event like? What was it?
It was called Collective Expression. Still my very favorite event. We randomly somehow got a nice high-rise duplex in Manhattan for free.
Wow.
Just by reaching out to our network and communicating. And we didn't put a deck together from pictures from the Brooklyn apartment. We didn't have anything. We had an idea. We had pictures of what we could do. We had some emails when we cold called a bunch of sponsors and our connects, and one of them stuck.
Yeah, y'all did some groundwork.
We did some groundwork. Yeah. We got the place for free. We didn't have any money. All of the sponsors said no, and so one sponsor, Miss Jesse's, was the only sponsor that said yes. She came. They brought their whole entire crew. Brought products for everybody that came. We had what we call a big chop at the event, which a young lady who had a natural perm cut off all her hair at the event. Miss Jesse's did that. It was great. We had raffles. It was just a great photo ops, all sorts of things. And it was just a really great experience. And from then, that's where Curly Girl Collective kind of was born. And for the next few years, we had small events, 300, 200 people. And then 2014, CurlFest was born, and there it was from there.
Gone
from there.
All right, so now we're gonna go into CurlFest and how it actually blew up. All right, so we got the backstory, and I'm glad you said that, because people a lot of times, even with our podcast, they're like, oh, how did y'all just blow up overnight? But nothing happens overnight, right? They just see the success and they think that it happened overnight. So they see 30,000, 20, 35,000 people coming to your events, and they're like, how did this happen? But you gave some of the backstory, how you grew it from an apartment in Brooklyn to 300 people, and you just steadily grew it. Right. So you said in 2014, that's when everything changed, right?
Yes.
So because we're gonna talk about the festival, because this is another topic. We talked about hair, but I think the festival industry within itself is a very interesting topic to cover, because festivals are huge right now. Like you look at Coachella, you look at Essence Festival. There's a bunch of different festivals.
Ozzy Fest is about to happen.
Yeah, it's a bunch of Governor's Ball.
Yep.
There's a bunch of different stuff, right?
No. What's it called? The joint in Miami? Smoking Loud.
Rolling Loud.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of different festivals right now, and obviously it's a business. It's an industry. People are obviously making money.
They're not doing it for nothing.
They would do it if they wasn't making money, right? But it's a process to go to that. And a lot of times people get intimidated because they see something like Essence Festival, right? Shout out to Essence. But Essence is a huge brand. So they look at it like, well, I can't do that because Essence already has millions of dollars in their bank, and they have millions of influencers and people. So little old me can't do that. But you guys, just regular people, and started, as you said, an apartment in Brooklyn, and you've established a global brand, and thousands, tens of thousands of people coming to your events. So can you walk us through the process of how you go from 300 to 30,000?
Sure. So in 2014 was the first year that CurlFest came. We thought up the name. It really just came because we couldn't fit in any more New York spaces, right? They were capped at 300. There were men that wanted to come. There were more people. They would sell out in minutes. And we had the demand. We had a strong brand at the time, which is also very important. People would recognize our brand, the Curly Girl Collective brand.
Prior to that, were you doing it in like club? Where were the events that held prior to 2014?
Various spaces in New York. I don't have the name, but they weren't really clubs,
like
but
lounges,
okay. Right? We had one at Taj Lounge on 21st. That was a great event.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, and it was great, and we had really good feedback with that, and we were proud of ourselves with our creativity, and part of what we felt made us different was our creativity and our strong brand. So the Curly Girl Collective logo in itself was created as an image of 3 of the members, right? Three natural hair women. And it was, people would identify with the image of the brand before they would even identify the name Curly Girl Collective or the 5 of us. At the time, it was 8 of us. So that was great. It's always great to have a strong brand. In 2014, we wanted to, let's have a fun picnic where more people can come, an outdoor space. And so that's how CurlFest was born at that time. We didn't expect more than 500 people to come. We marketed to and used our social media channels, and it wasn't a large social media following at the time. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a burst of social media following.
How many followers did you have at that time?
At the time, maybe 20,000 at most, right?
That's pretty good. Pretty good size.
Yeah.
Those are like, at that time, it's like real followers.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you could reach all 20,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we just reached out to our following, and we at that time we had maybe 2 sponsors that said yes for CurlFest. It was a concept that we put time and effort into creating what we wanted to see in the space. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was it from there. From going from the first CurlFest, which garnered maybe 1,500 people at most, we were ecstatic about that. It grew exponentially over the years. Till the next year, maybe 4,000 or 5,000. The next year, 7,500, and then the following year was about 20,000. So we did a huge jump, right? And the last year was about 35. So, and we attribute a lot of that to just social media, branding, reaching out and pitching to appropriate press, and also being true to our vision. I think what is very transparent and unique about Curly Girl Collective is that we are the creators and we are the customer. We know what the customer wants to see at the event because she is me and I am her. So we listen to our customer, and that's part of what makes us authentic, and that authenticity is transparent to our customers as well.
So you said branding, right? Because that's very important, right? And even with your logo, you said people identify. We talked about it. We did a social media episode a couple weeks ago, and I said one of the things that I said was that people are more likely to attach themselves and follow a brand than an individual person. And I kind of used my Instagram page versus Earn Your Leisure's Instagram page, where Earn Your Leisure's grown at a faster rate than my personal Instagram page. And it's just human nature. I think people are more likely. So how did you come up with the brand? How did you push the brand? How did you promote the brand? Like, what was the backstory on that? I know you said that some of you guys had a background in marketing, right?
Yep. Most of the Curly Girl Collective have a background in advertising of some sort. And Melody, she's the creative director, and that's what she does for a living. At the time, she was a creative director and would do commercials for various companies like Home Goods and all these things. And she was the top creative director in New York on the East Coast, and she would make it her duty also to make sure that there was representation in outside of Curly Girl Collective, in just the general media and any kind of project that she put her hands on. And so we were blessed to be able to have a good mix of talents within Curly Girl Collective already. So it was her vision to make sure that our brand is represented what we wanted to portray to our fans. Even the CurlFest logo is just an overlay of the actual images of attendees at the event. Every year we have a new CurlFest logo, and that is from the year prior, from images from the actual event. And we did that on purpose because we wanted people to look at the logo and know exactly what we are representing and see themselves in the brand and push that. And a lot of it was kind of organic. Pushing the brand was kind of organic. We were in the right place at the right time. I say timing played a good part in our success as well, as long as with hard work, creativity, and branding, for sure. So people were yearning at the time for a need. There was a large elephant in the room, that there were Black women and young girls screaming for, I need representation. I need something that looks like me. Yearning for these things, and no one really was paying attention to that. There was not a space, and we created one, right? There was not, and still isn't, a natural beauty festival dedicated to women of color. It doesn't exist. We created that space. There wasn't events at that time catered for women of natural hair, in 2011 when we started Curly Girl Collective, and we created that space. So it was more just listening to our audience, hearing the need. Where there's a need, there's a market, right? So we listened to that and pushed forward, and we saw it proof.
You said on the first event you had one sponsor say yes, Miss Jessie, correct?
Yep.
Up until now, this year's, how many sponsors we got?
Maybe 35 or 40.
35 or 40. So at this point, are the sponsorships just coming in, and you guys have to figure out who matches the brand, or what's the process of getting sponsors and saying, yes, this matches with our vision, and I'm not sure that this matches?
So Gia is the sponsorship director on our team as well. And we put time into creating packages and decks and put that together to identify what our worth is. And we actively reach out to brands still. It is a little easier with quotes to get brands to pay attention to us now because of our history, but we still actively outreach to brands, and we're moving, trying to broaden the space. So not just beauty brands, moving into trying to get telecommunication brands, right? Alcohol brands, transportation, all of these things, all of these different industries. And sometimes it's starting from scratch, right? Is having to believe in what you provide, putting a package together that makes sense, and how you can, and do your research, how you can provide value to these sponsors and pitching to them. There's no cookie cutter way to do it, right? It's a long process from just cold calls going into LinkedIn and finding people in that business that you can speak to, networking, reaching out to your network. There's no easy way to get in front of the right person to be able to say yes or to find interest in your brand. It is a process that you have to massage. It took us years to get a yes from Target. Target is one of our biggest brands. It took us years to get a number of sponsors. And sometimes it's just a process that you have to nurture. And that is just reaching out to your network. And a lot of it was cold calls. Honestly, a lot of it was cold calls. And when you have the right press, and after the event, why social media is so powerful, and be able to put impressions and things in your deck for the next year, people start to pay attention. So brand sponsors that didn't pay attention before, now we get a meeting. Once you get the meeting, then you can seal the deal. But sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years for somebody to say yes. Period.
So y'all hit numbers that they couldn't ignore, right? You have 35,000 people in a park.
Exactly.
We have to pay attention.
And
to
these
that.
are qualified leads, right? These are people that are not here to see a music brand. They're here because they want to talk beauty. This is your customer.
That's so incredible. Like, there's no featured artists. Like, it's y'all on
There's
stage.
no featured
it's
artists.
y'all and 35,000 people.
Yeah.
And y'all getting busy up on stage.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something really quick because I think people kind of have a misconception about how these festivals work. The amount of time you have to put in, right? So you're not just thinking of in May, hey, we're going to do this festival, right? Like, we got it behind the scenes. We said, like, how long does this thing take? And you were like, a year.
A year. A year.
So, like, literally when one's over, you're preparing for the next.
Absolutely. Yeah. When one is over, maybe there's a couple of weeks, but even in that, those couple of weeks, we're still doing a lot of follow-up from the year prior, from the festival that was a week ago. So it literally takes a year. There are months that really start to pick up, and I would say I would be lying if I said anything less than a year. It took to really from beginning to end to flesh out a full festival. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask in regards to marketing and getting sponsorships, you said you had mentioned that you reached out to the press, right? Mm-hmm. So do you have a PR firm that you work with, or like what's the process? That's another thing that we're learning about as well. Like what's the process of reaching out to press? How do you determine which press you should reach out to? Like, what's that process?
So we don't have a PR firm. We do everything, I say 90% of everything ourselves. And Cherise, who is one of the members as well, whose wheelhouse is PR. We would do anything from press releases, paying for that, right? Reaching out cold and creating. You have to create the story for them. Press is looking for content, but you have to make yourself feel attractive to them and do your research. If let's say Blavity for the last time, they covered natural hair, and you find what they're interested in. Find a way to transform your story in a way that's attractive to them. So we had a good article with Forbes, and they were attracted to us because they wanted to learn more about the story and the business behind it, right?
Forbes did?
Yeah, the Forbes article, the business behind and the growth, right? But we wouldn't, certain press, we wouldn't get unless they said yes to a story that they felt was attractive and related to their audience. So it depends. Huffington Post came and covered the event. It is great that we're the largest and natural beauty festival. That's a pitch that we can use. You guys have a great podcast, the top podcast right now, so in business. So that's something that people are interested in. So it's really just finding out what is going to be attractive to that specific press, line it up, create that pitch, and send it to them, and they will pick it up. Not every time you will get a lot of no's. You may get a yes. We got a few yeses, and as you get more yeses, the more yeses are going to come.
So you actually you write an article and send it to them? Like the article's already written, or the format of the article is already written?
It's more like a pitch deck. So we'll put ideas.
That's separate? So there's a deck and a pitch deck?
There's a deck and a pitch deck.
Can you explain the pitch deck?
Sure, but it's not a formal deck. It's an informal deck, and you have a conversation. I want to pitch this idea to you.
Okay.
I want to pitch this idea, and this is the spin on it. This is the largest festival in the world, run by 5 Black women. You need to have this. Okay, I'm interested. Tell me more, right? Then you have a conversation about, okay, this is what we can do. They want to work with you as long as it makes sense to them, but you have to get that door open. So for if there is a media avenue that tends to like breakthrough stories or stories about women or stories about overnight successes, whatever the case may be, that is where you need to reach out cold sometimes and say, I have a story for you that I would like for you to run, and more often than not, if they're interested, they will say yes.
That's valuable information.
That's dope.
Thank you.
That's dope. Yeah, that was a lot of gems right there.
Yeah.
Useful information. That's the thing we try to give in our podcast. Useful information that people can use, and a lot of times people just don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? That's what Cole, our last guest, said. Like, you don't even know the questions to actually
to get the answers
exactly.
that you don't know already.
Exactly. It's so much misinformation and just not a lack of information that people. So yeah, we thank you for that. So all right, okay, moving towards the festival, right? So these festivals cost a lot of money to put on. Like, roughly ballpark figure. Like, how much would a festival, like at this point in your development, how much would that cost?
It can easily cost $1 million to throw the festival. Between $500,000 and $1 million, it probably takes to throw a festival.
So, all right. So it costs, let's say, $1 million. So what's the process of how do you raise enough money to cover that? Because obviously, I would assume you have to pay in stages, or you pay all up front, or you pay different...
No, you pay in stages.
What's the cost? What's some of the costs that's involved in running a festival? You have security,
you have permit fees, you have security, you have the venue space, you have all of the requirements that are dictated by the state of New York, from the number of porta potties that you have to have down to the number of fire guards you have. These are big ticket items that add up, and every single thing in a space like a park, you have to pay for. Nothing comes there but grass. So you have to bring your electricity, right, down to every signage, every banner that goes up. Yeah, pretty much everything. Staff, T-shirts for the staff, meals, everything. It's just stages, sound, and there are permits. There's a long list of permits to have in Prospect Park, and as you get bigger, those permits get bigger as well.
This is why it takes a year.
So you're doing this in stages. You're not doing it all in 1 month. Obviously, you might do, we're going to do the lighting, we're going to do the porta potties, we're going to do all that, and then it's like a stage. Yeah,
for most things like rentals, and we have a lot of tents and stuff like that, we put a deposit down and we pay as we go. Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. And sometimes the checks don't come in at the same time that your bills go out, and that's a real concern, right? That's a real concern that we have to prepare for when we are trying to figure out what to pay next, it goes down to the pricing that we set for our ticket prices, our sponsors, and all these things come into play when we make these decisions.
So you said that 3 of the girls, the founders, have backgrounds in advertising and marketing. You're in IT. Does anybody have a background in finance? Or are y'all just figuring this out as you go?
You know what? No, and I am the finance person. I do the books.
That's dope.
So I had a conversation with some young girls the other day, and they struggled with, one thing that they struggled with was trying to figure out what they can do, their role. And what I told them was, find out what exactly you're good at and lean into that, right? So I've always just been good in numbers. I've always been good with logistics, and the role came to me and where I felt the need in Curly Girl Collective. I didn't come into here being an accountant, but I was the best with the numbers and figuring out the logistics and the permits, and all of those things were my wheelhouse. That's what I do as the operations director. Director of operations.
So let me ask you this: what's the revenue model? Because we're never going to apologize for making money in business. That's what we're in business for, right? We want to support all kinds of businesses, but especially black business. But people, they're looking at the festival like, okay, $1 million, that's a lot of money that it goes out. How is it profitable? What's the revenue model as far as to make money from a festival? Just in general, festivals in general.
It's not a complex revenue model, but we make, this is the first year that we are have a fully ticketed event. So some of the revenue comes from ticket sales, and a large portion of the revenue comes from sponsors. So it is a very expensive event. So being mindful of our costs is something that we have to do on a daily basis. That's me. That's my role. I'm saying no all day. We can have 1,000,001 beautiful things at the event, but everything costs money, and so we have to be able to make sure that we put ourselves in a position that we're not at a loss, and that is something that will be my responsibility in my role, to make sure that we are in the black. So
just really quick, so I'm hearing this, this is taking a year to do, right? And you're the operations director for Curly Girl Collective, but this isn't are you doing this full time, or because I know you do a lot of things outside of this, right? Mm-hmm. And people always ask oh, how do you have time to do this? How do you have time to do that? You're running a full-fledged festival, and you have another career, and I always see you doing community service. It's
it's very difficult. hopefully this year it will be my full time. We're moving towards that. We have one member that has made that jump. And so we're moving towards that. It's 5 of us, so it's not as easy to be able to say that we can support, but that's what we're scaling for. That's what we'll have another CurlFest in Atlanta. We're trying to make the event more of a weekend or a week-long experience as opposed to one day. So we're having a couple of events surrounding CurlFest this year as well.
Yeah, there's a Sunday skate party.
Sunday skate party, yep. We're exploring a couple of different other revenue streams as well, from all of our merchandising, food and beverage, and all sorts of things that we haven't really put a lot of energy into that we're moving towards as well. So it is a lot. It is not easy to have another full-time job and try to create and run 2 festivals. It is a stretch. If I were to give advice to anybody, it would be to know when it's okay to ask for help. We have been doing this on our own for a long time. And so much that we get to a place every single year that everybody's stretched beyond, we do. A lot of people will look at CurlFest and think there's a big corporation behind it. And it was, for a long time, it was the 5 of us, climbing up on ladders, handing the banners ourselves, running to, and we still do like 90% of those things now, but we have a production company that helps us with our grounds work because it's bigger than us. It's bigger than the 5 of us now. So it is a process, and we're moving to that transition to make sure that this is a sustainable thing, that we're here and it's not a one-day fluke. We're here to stay. We have a sustainable product, and doing research and trying to get more revenue streams in so we can make this our full-time and only thing and nurture it like we need to.
Y'all on the way.
So all right, so the next segment we're going to talk about scaling, because that's the next level, evolution.
Yeah.
All right, so now in the last part we want to talk about scaling, because you've established a very strong brand, and you've done events in New York. But now you're taking the show on the road, right?
Yes.
But before, I had just a random question. Knock on wood, hopefully this never happens. I don't know if this has happened to you, but in business we always prepare for the worst possible case scenario. So you spend $1 million on a festival. What if it rains?
Oh, it's rain or shine, bro.
It's rain or shine.
It's rain or shine.
It's rain or shine event, and it is the nature of having an outdoor event. It's something that we worry about and we lose sleep about.
It hasn't happened yet, right?
1 year it did happen, and we were able to change the date to a later date, and it actually didn't rain that day. So that happened maybe 3 years ago. But there are a lot of horror stories that we don't want to think about. Like, Governor's Ball just recently had to cancel their Sunday because of lightning and evacuate everybody. Yeah. So,
and there's no refund for that.
No.
It's just you're done.
You're done. You can get some refund for certain things if you have cancellation insurance.
But you sell tickets, and then you got sponsors. They already paid too, so it's not that bad, I guess.
It's bad. Yeah.
As far as from a money standpoint, you don't lose that much money because you already, the day of the event, you already probably made your money.
Right. But if you had to cancel the event due to lightning, that's a whole nother situation. If the event didn't even happen, because lightning is another thing. So it rains, okay, it's not the greatest experience. You move on. If it's lightning and the patrons can't come and the event doesn't happen at all, that's a whole nother bandwagon.
So that's when you got to get like cancellation insurance? That's when
you should have cancellation insurance regardless. And that's when you may be able to recoup some things. Sponsors would probably want their money back or some case, but you have to, that's what cancellation insurance comes in.
But that's not going to happen.
But you
have to prepare for it.
You have to prepare for it.
You have to, like I said, we prepare for everything. So cancellation insurance. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting. So they have insurance for those kind of situations.
Exactly.
And y'all knew that? Like what? Oh, y'all learned that on the way.
We learned that.
Okay.
We learned that. We learned that within the last few years. Actually, a lot of these things that we learned as the event grew, it became more from a small little outdoor picnic to actual festival with a whole another list of logistical things that we didn't have to deal with before, that we have to deal with now.
All right. Okay.
So,
cool.
So the brand is scaling. right?
The brand is scaling.
New York City is July 27th.
July 27th.
But you're taking us on the road.
Taking us to the city of Atlanta.
To the city of Atlanta in the fall of this year.
Ooh.
We're very excited about it. We made that jump. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we're doing it. We are having an event on the 28th, right after CurlFest, called Roller Set.
28th of July?
28th of July. That will be at the LaFrac Center in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. We're excited about that too. So yeah, we're scaling. We're putting our feelers out there. We're making sure that we have a place here to stay. So that's what we're working.
So how do you know, like, because you said even internationally you're thinking about going international too. So like, how do you test the market? Like, do you do small events first to see how hot you are, or you just jump in and just say, let's do it? Like, how do you know? Obviously you see your numbers. Like on Instagram, definitely you can see your numbers. That's how we check our numbers. We know like our biggest market is New York. Our second biggest market is Atlanta. That's what you do too? Like,
I would say proceed with some level of caution. You have to do a little bit of jumping in too. This year we did a small event in South Africa to test that market, and it was
Afro and Beats, right?
Yep, Afro and Beats. It was great. It was a brunch series. A few hundred people and attendees, and it was great. So we're testing that market. Hopefully you'll see a CurlFest in South Africa soon. So
how did you do the South Africa thing? Like, they knew about Instagram and stuff like that, right? So you had people in South Africa already, or?
We had people in South Africa. Tracy was living there for some time, and people did know about CurlFest in South Africa, so that was great, and they wanted to work with us. And there was, if you don't know, there's a lot of conversation and unrest around natural hair in South Africa, especially. There's a lot of laws, going on, the schools, all of that. So it's a hot topic, and they need that. And so we want to make it happen for, South Africa. Afropunk is there, and so we see the shift as well. So we want to take advantage.
And you got people coming from all over the world to New York for the event, right?
Yes.
What are some countries that are represented at the
CurlFest? We've had people from Brazil, from Ghana, lots from London, all across America. We have surveys that show, where our attendees are coming from. It surprises us every time that we see people are traveling, and also lends to the fact that there's a need that exists. There's nothing out there like that. People are coming just for the feeling. They're not coming to see a show. They're coming to feel what it feels like to be in a place where everyone around you looks like you and represented and celebrates you. And so that's what we like to make sure that we stick to and be authentic.
So, all right. So Atlanta's definitely happening. That's happening.
It's
right?
happening.
That's going to be huge.
Where else are you? Do you have any other ideas that you're thinking about going to?
Yeah, we'd like to do a CurlFest in the Caribbean. We'd like to do. There's a couple of low-hanging fruit. We'd love to do a CurlFest in London. And a CurlFest in Africa. It could be in Ghana. There was a whole Back to Africa movement this year. This year is the year of the return in 2019, 400 years from slavery. So it's a big deal. There was something called Coachella in Ghana this year, which was huge. So yeah, we want to be able to make those things happen.
That's dope. I love that you're thinking globally, because I was just telling Troy the other day, like, we got a DM from somebody from Saudi Arabia. He lives in Europe. Shout out to Saudi Arabia and shout out to Europe. And he was saying, like, we love your podcast, we love your content on Instagram, but can you just try to talk about more global topics, because a lot of the stuff that you talk about is just America, and it makes you really think, like, we're in a day and age now where people all over the world is listening and tuning in, so we can't just get caught up in our neighborhood or even our country, like, so that's great that you're thinking like that.
Absolutely.
Because the whole world needs to experience that, not just America or the East Coast or the West Coast. Like everybody all over the world has content.
And multitude of cultures too, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has an idea of what beauty is, right? So like, just to expand on that narrative is important.
Right.
Yeah.
That's important. Shout out to the UK. We're going to do something in London.
We coming with y'all.
Yeah, we coming.
We coming with y'all.
Yeah, come with us.
We coming with y'all.
We should do a collab.
That's a fact.
Where we going? We going to Jamaica in the Caribbean?
I think Jamaica's on top of the list. I think it's a nice.
Yeah, shout out to
no
Jamaica.
bias,
shout out to Jamaica. Simone and Troy are both Jamaican.
Yeah.
So Jamaica. Shout out to DR.
Shout out to DR.
Shout out to DR. We are number 2 on the podcast charts in DR.
Oh, really?
Yeah, number 2 business podcast.
That was a pleasant surprise. My man, Lord of the Slums, Fernando. Shout out to him. He was a guest. He's from DR. He's doing his thing in Jersey right now. He's a real estate mogul. So yeah, shout out to DR, man. Yeah, I gotta brush up on my Spanish.
Yeah, got a few more Dykeman trips.
Yeah, for sure. Dykeman. That's gonna
That'll
happen.
do it.
That's gonna happen. All right. So, how can the people contact you? How can they, get information on the event? Yeah, what's your social media handles? All that stuff.
Okay, so social media is Curly Girl Collective on Instagram, CurlYGirlCollective, and then on Twitter is I Love C.G.C, and Facebook is Curly Girl Collective. And follow us. We have tickets dropping again soon. Look out for Atlanta tickets dropping. Our roller set. We have a lot of surprises, a lot of sponsors, a lot of giveaways. Other events that we haven't even announced yet are coming down the pipeline. So, yes.
If y'all haven't been.
And when's the event in New York? What day is that again?
July 27th on Saturday at Randall's Island. Randall's Island is accessible by a car or pedestrian walkway, because a lot of people do confuse it now. There's a lot of islands in New York, or Governor's Island, right? So it's Randall's Island, very close to Harlem, and you can walk from 125th Street right over, a 15-minute walk, and you reach the island. And our roller set is at Prospect Park, in a roller skating rink called the Frac Center in Prospect Park.
And men are welcome as well, right?
Men are more than welcome. Men are more than welcome. So much that we have seen within the last couple of years our demographic change, and our men attendance has definitely increased. So we have features and sponsors just for you men. We have products just for men in our gift bag. So you're more than welcome. Bring your children, bring your wives, find a wife.
Kids under 6 are free. That's important. Kids under 6 are free.
Kids under 6 are free.
Come on.
Yeah.
I know the company line.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
And we have giveaways, so you may win a free ticket to CurlFest if you follow us. All of that.
It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge.
Dope. Yeah. No, I definitely we gotta talk. We could definitely do some collabs for sure. Cause I think that that's dope. Like I said, we like what you're doing.
And this is our hometown. This is a homecoming part 2.
That's right.
Yeah. For sure. Actually, Simone. This is the second time I interviewed Simone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's on my. I want to tell that story too. So I had a public access channel.
Still got it?
No, I still do. But I'll tell a story on that. So I had a public access channel, and when I first started the public access channel, shout out to Mike. He didn't fully understand why I was doing public access. He was like, "Yo, you should just go to YouTube, and we're not monetizing public access." But I'm like, I'm not a journalist. I'm not an interviewer, right? So I used that as a springboard. Like, I need to season myself and get better. So one of the reasons why the podcast is doing well now is that I have experience already, right? But I still do the public access as well. And that's for people just in my community, just I want to highlight that's doing good things. So I say that to say, never look down on something and never look at something like it's too small for you. Because like I said, we have one of the top podcasts in the world. I don't have to do a public access channel show, but I still do it. I still like to do it. Yeah. And that 2 years of me doing it before we started the podcast, I think has helped me in the podcast game.
Sure.
And it also shows the growth. Like I said, I had Simone on my show 2 years ago, and now she's on the podcast 2 years later. So it's just dope. So I always tell people that you don't just start at the top of the mountain. Yeah. You have to work your way up. And no matter what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if 10 people are listening or if 1 million people are listening. The most important thing is just getting content out there, valuable content that can help people.
That's crazy that you said that story, because it's like so honest. Like, people that have grown up with us would be like, "Yo, Rashad was the quietest guy." I'm like, "Really? He talks all the time." They're like, "Nah, he's always quiet." And now I'm listening, like they listen to you now. It's like, yo, this guy sounds.
You're still probably seasoned. Quiet. You're not
right?
quiet.
Like, that's all I used to hear. I'm like, nah, listen, he doesn't stop talking. Trust me. And now they get to see you. That's dope that you said that story.
Well, you have to talk when it's important to. You got to talk when it's important to.
Yeah,
you know you're gonna throw something in.
But shout out to Atlanta. We're gonna break some news right now.
Here you go.
Okay, if you follow us, you know that we've we're testing our reach, and we're doing networking events all over. So we did the first networking event two months ago in LA.
Yeah.
And it was super dope. That was just random pop-up, like 2 days before we just announced it.
Yeah.
And we packed out the venue, and it was dope. And then we was in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago, and that was crazy. You can see the footage on Instagram. It was too many people in the venue. We spilled out in the street. Atlanta, we promised that Atlanta was next. So
turn.
yes, the 18th of July 18th, we will be in Atlanta. By the time you hear this, the information will probably already be up, but it'll be on our website, earnyourleisure.com, on the events tab. Make sure you RSVP, because we have to have RSVP list, because there's too many people. Like Brooklyn is sold out in a day. It's free, but in 24 hours we had to stop it. We reopened it, but Atlanta, I'm pretty confident we're going to get a very strong turnout. So
Atlanta's
make sure.
Been asking.
Yeah, no, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be dope. Get there early, and the whole purpose of the event is to, you're going to meet us, but also other professionals, other people in your city. Like New York and LA was crazy. Like you might live in the same city as somebody, or the same block, the same town, but you never actually come across them. And then in an event like this, you never know who could be your real estate partner. You never know who could be your business partner. You never know who, so it's just great. And then we're going to bring some guests with us as well.
Yeah, we're bringing some of the team.
Yeah, we're going to bring some of our podcast guests. Yeah.
So you're officially alumni now. So welcome.
I am?
Yeah,
okay,
everybody
wonderful.
Comes.
Yeah, for sure. So you're going to be able to talk to them. It's going to be dope, man. You know, we, and like I said, Atlanta, that's our second biggest market. That's like our home away from home.
Sure.
So we got to show love to Atlanta. We got to do it right in Atlanta. And then right after the hills of Atlanta, I think Toronto, Canada is going to be next, but we're going to release information on that later on. Right now, we focused on Atlanta. So yes. Hit the website, get your tickets. We will see you on the 18th. We're looking forward to it. So, Troy, any housekeeping items?
Patreon.com. It's moving. Shout out to our new members, Adriana and LaJelica. We just had a conversation with Dejan today. He's a part of our armed forces about, things that he wants to do and how we can help him. So, shout out to him. And shout out to Brenda in the Bay Area, who is, she's got some connections that she wants us to like.
Shout out to the Bay.
Yeah, capitalize on.
We coming to Oakland.
We coming to should we tell them?
Not the dates yet, but we are coming to Oakland. That's a fact.
We're looking at the end of August to come back out to California. So we're going to Oakland for sure. LA, we coming back out there. Patreon.com/earnyourleisure. If you want to support the podcast, there's different tiers. There's 5 different ones. It ranges from $2 on up. So feel free to join at any level and continue to support the merch.
Proud to Pay. That's what Nip, the late great Nipsey Hussle. That's what he championed.
Proud to Pay campaign.
Proud to Pay. Like I always say, we're gonna give you the information for free. But like all things in the world, the podcast, it takes money to run a podcast. It takes money to go to Atlanta and do these different events, things of that nature, and go to Oakland and meet entrepreneurs. That's another thing too. When we go to cities, we just don't go to the city. We meet people in the city. We interview.
And we do interviews there for sure.
Yeah, so, Proud to Pay. That's something that, Patreon allows us to do.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody that is buying merch, that, supports on Patreon. It's support.
Yeah, and it's growing. It's growing, right? We started with 2 members, and now we're up to 36. So keep supporting. Like Rashad said, hit earnyourleisure.com. Our merch is up there. We got a new campaign we're going to be doing very soon, and we're going to be releasing. We're actually taping it now, but we're going to be releasing very shortly. So thank you for your support. You know how it goes. We love y'all.
Yeah, and before we leave, book tip of the week is The Richest Man in Babylon. That's a good book. It's a finance book, but it talks about, a lot of common practices and uses that anybody can utilize. So I highly recommend that book. And
Wait, one last thing. We got to shout out, since this is our beauty episode and we're talking about natural hair, we got to shout out the state of California. They were the first state to ban discrimination based on natural hair. So shout out to California. The Crown Act, that's the name of the act. So the Crown Act, they've banned discrimination against natural hair. So shout out to California. Yeah. And shout out to the town of Greenberg.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we all know each other. It's the second time we had a guest that we grew up with. Val, shout out to Valencia. She was the first. Simone's the second. So we got to bring more people that we know personally on as well. We know everybody personally, but this is, high school. So, yes, once again, thank you guys for rocking with us. We will see you next week. Peace.